So MSNBC and that whole cartel of stations is up for sale. Is Elon Musk going to buy it? That's the big question. And will he need it? Because when he and Vivek Ramaswamy go into this dark tunnel, I mean, it's almost like a Harry Potter movie. When they get in that maze, the chances are good somebody's not coming out alive, because the conspiracy isn't the big problem. It's the money.
Welcome to 1850 Main Street, a place where friends get together and talk about their country and hope for a brighter future. Today, Rob Walgate and Alan C. Duncan from the Public Square are joined by David Zanotti, the CEO of the American Policy Roundtable.
So if anybody had told us at the beginning of the year, this is where we're going to end up, this is what American politics and media is going to look like, you're going to have a complete devolving of the MSNBC, NBC, Comcast, Universal networking. They're going to suddenly be spinning off their most aggressive left-wing elements of their cable channels, and it looks like going to sell them. And there's going to be a total upheaval in the nation. And, oh, by the way, Donald Trump's going to win. Oh, and in addition to that, he's going to take Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk and set up a commission to do nothing but examine for the next 18 months government waste and report on the 4th of July, 2026. If you had told me that was where we'd be talking in November of this year, I would have said, what are you drinking? Check your meds.
It's hard to believe we're here, but when you watch the media, those that you refer to as Comcast, Universal, all the big boys, it doesn't seem like the things they discussed on television each and every night, or continue to discuss on television each and every night, are where you like that catch? You see that?
That was
or
good.
They aren't where the majority of the American people are today. So I think that's been the big thing, is to see the difference in how far apart in reality and in perspective both places are.
Did you guys see the Axios CEO had a bit of a meltdown, yelling at Elon Musk because Elon Musk keeps saying that X, you are the media now. He keeps saying people who are on X, you're the media now. And the Axios CEO didn't like that. And so he got pretty mad at Elon. And so he had a big rant to him. So it's pretty interesting.
What's the point of his rant?
Well, it's used some colorful words, BS. He thinks that's BS. He doesn't think that's...
The example he used, if I'm not mistaken, he said, if I have tools and look at your brain, that doesn't make me a brain surgeon.
Okay.
Something to that effect. And I was like, but what's interesting on those rants, when I think about when something happens today in the world, I feel like many people go to X immediately if something is happening, because they know people are going to be posting there and looking at. Now, some would say, well, you don't know what's true and what's not true. Well, the corporate media has peddled untruths for decades, and they don't bother correcting themselves. Right. On X, they go back and correct themselves.
Yeah, there's community notes on X. And again, that's not perfect, but there are people, it's kind of real-time fact checking. We joke, sometimes we'll look in the camera and say, correct us in the comments if we miss this or something. But there's real-time fact checking, and there are also citizen journalists that use the platform. X is a platform. It's a public square, if you will. And it's where people gather. And so some people, they actually are journalists, and they use the platform for their trade. So
it's a public square, but it is not the public square.
Precisely. Yeah,
and that's the difference. I think they wish to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office.
They wish they had the name the Public Square. I think they wish they had that name.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and part of having that name is the fact that we were able to get it so early because of the vision that we were hoping to develop to where we are today. But that vision's got to go much, much wider and much, much broader. Let me just take a second and talk about that, because in analyzing what happened in America this year, I can't get away from one thought, and that's that I believe that voting Americans finally had enough of being lied to. I think if you boil it all out, that's what it is. I think that this was the first election after COVID in which people had come to the realization that the facts caught up with the fear, and that we were all manipulated, and that some people, it cost them their lives. Some people, it cost them their businesses, their future. Some kids, it cost them their education. The price of following that failed leadership was real, and embittering, and it was not necessary. It didn't have to be that way. Now, there's all kinds of forgiveness in this world for human failure, facing something we've never faced before. So I'm not talking about vengeful attitudes. I'm talking about regret. I'm talking about we should have been smarter. We should have known better. Then we went from that situation into an election that was manipulated legally, but really manipulated in regards to making an outcome happen. Now that we're past 2020 and we've been through 2024, we can see readily the manipulation of mail-in voting in 2020. We can argue about the legality, and there may yet be places where we discover things weren't done correctly. It doesn't matter because it's done. But the fact is that process did not repeat itself. So there is an anomaly. There is an aberration. There's something that wasn't the same. Okay. So people aren't comfortable with that. But then it gets worse because the campaign we're talking about is a campaign in which the candidate, Joe Biden, hid in his basement using COVID as a cover for his own infirmity and then served for 4 years.
When you look at that 2020 anomaly, you look back, and if we don't discuss this and expose it, people are going to go, wait a minute, was Joe Biden, the man that served in the United States Senate for all those years, the guy who ran for president, was he the most popular politician of all time? Because right now, if you just look at the numbers, straight numbers on voting, you would say he had to be the most popular person to ever run for president. Then you bring up the fact, but he campaigned from his basement. He didn't leave his house. How does that work? How does that add up? And again, it may have been a total legal ability to ballot harvest and get people excited. And I know people are still talking and looking at that. And there's people driving off the road right now listening to this, screaming at their phones, saying, no, that's not what happened. But when you look at it in that historical context, there's a lot of questions to be answered.
Well, and remember, election law is different than other laws. Election law is what you can get away with within the timeframes of enforcement. If you get your toes over the line in election law and you go long enough into the process after everyone's been placed in office and all the oaths of office have been taken, no court's going to overturn the outcome of an election. It just doesn't happen. So there's a differential in this, and the question of what's legal and what's honestly legal. Now, the offense is there. We can see something happened that doesn't make sense. But the key is they got away with it. And so you can, what we should be saying is instead of talking about illegal and stolen, we should have been talking from the beginning about different and why. And now we have that grid of analysis. But there's one more piece. And that's the piece that the person who then chose to run to replace Joe Biden, of course, we know how it happened, void of all the primaries.
Was chosen to run.
Was chosen.
Yeah.
The person who was chosen hid the fact of Joe Biden's infirmity for the 4 years that she served as vice president. And, I think the culmination of all of that is people said, we're tired of being lied to.
Exactly, because I think when the tell-all book comes out, whoever decides to write it are probably going to talk about maybe the fall of 2023, the fall or the spring of 2024 leading up to it. Like who behind the scenes was saying, listen, we have got to make a move earlier. Vice President Harris was one of the least popular vice presidents in U.S. history. So, a lot of people didn't want her to be at the top of that ticket. So who's going to write the book and when's the truth going to come out?
Yeah. Wasn't she asked during the campaign when she knew that Joe Biden had mental failings and she didn't really know what to say? There was no good answer. So I think that was one of the most revealing moments on the campaign.
There's just and I guess what I would submit to you is there's a philosophical reality here that goes beyond America and it goes beyond current elections. There's something inside human nature that people don't like being lied to. Now, they don't mind being tricked or fooled or humored in entertaining situations. They love magic tricks. They like jokes that have crazy punchlines that drop down 3 levels. They love to put themselves listening to stand-up comedians who twist them around for an hour and make them laugh 3 different ways about this. We love being fooled. We love being fooled a little bit for fun.
The first few M. Night Shyamalan films with some plot twists at the end.
Well, Dave, no one likes being lied to, but do you think it would have been different had the Democrats admitted to many people that they were lying. That's been the thing, is they denied the lie for so long. Do you think it'd have been different if they would have come out and said, you know what, we were wrong. This change should have taken place 6 months ago. We've been misleading. We were wrong. Here's what we're going to do. We lied. We're sorry. Forgive us. That's not what happened. I think Americans are forgiving people, but when you continually perpetuate a lie, they're like, wait a minute here. How often are they going to keep lying to us?
Yeah, there's no signs that they're going to stop.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks for stopping by at 1850 Main Street. We're glad you're here. Do you want to learn more about what's really going on behind the scenes in public policy? Tune in to the Public Square on over 200 radio stations coast to coast, or download the free Public Square mobile app from your app store. Just look for The Lamppost. Find out what America's talking about at thepublicsquare.com.
So here's the question that really brings us to where we are right now is, can we handle the truth?
Because we know what
now,
line just went through everyone's head from what movie.
Yeah.
Everyone sees Jack saying it.
Can we handle the truth? Because now Vivek and Musk are going to go on a mission to find out how bad it really is inside the administrative state. And they have the wealth and the experience and the window of opportunity to actually find the answers. I would equate this, if you were going to go stick with a movie, it would be like a dystopian movie of people having to go into a medieval situation that is dark and dangerous at every turn. And the deeper they dig and the harder they fight, what they're going to find is it is almost an endless pit. Will they find it? Will they come out alive? Will they survive to be able to give the report?
I don't even think we're being fair to the medieval ages to compare the two things. I think. Listen, they at least built cathedrals. I mean, so they're going to find much worse.
Bring back architecture.
Yes,
Make America architecture great again. Is that what you're?
I like. Yeah. Okay. I'll wear
Make
that.
American artful again. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
But and here's what I'm saying is. People will go, oh, you're going to find out that these people were trying to kill that person. No. The conspiracies about who tried to get rid of who, when, where. Yeah, that stuff, it'd be fascinating to get into some of those files, but that's not what we're talking about. And I'm not talking about the fact that we're going to get to the end of it and we're going to find the Bilderbergers. Oh, my goodness. All right. And most people think when you say Bilderbergers, you're saying either build a burger or build a bear. All right. We're not going to find the Illuminati. All right. At the bottom of the whole heap. There's not going to be like one thing. It's not going to be like a Nicolas Cage movie. They go behind a closed door, they put a torch to something and the whole thing's going to illuminate. And there's all the conspiracy. No, what you're going to find is what happens when for 50 years, you take so much money from people with so little accountability that you can get away with just about anything, and that we've tried. The rise of the administrative state is taking care of so many people and so many projects. The X's and O's don't match up. The I's and the T's are not dotted or crossed. It's a mess. It is a mess that is held together with strings and wires and more money from Congress, and nobody wants to know the truth.
Yeah, and I hear you say all those things, and the interesting part to me is the person that ran for president in 2024 and the person that is still currently in the White House, and you hear them talk about these things and all that's wrong, and then you add up the number of years together that those two have been in public service as elected officials, whether they were in the United States Senate, whether they were attorney generals of respective states, whether they were the president and the vice president, and then you say, wait a minute, why hasn't anyone come in to make a change? That's the interesting thing to me about Elon Musk is his financial dependency doesn't depend on the federal government. I mean, he's fine without it. So whatever he wants to expose, he's willing to expose.
Well, I will say this. He does have government contracts for some of his stuff. So that's one of the critiques that's been leveled against him, just trying to be as fair as possible. So he does have some ties to government, which will be interesting to see how that manifests, if that makes a difference or not. But it's there.
No, it's a great point, Alan. And he's fresh in the game, and he spent a boatload of money to help try to get Donald Trump elected. And whether he was doing that to protect his contracts or to protect his country or to protect his conscience, nobody knows. But he did it. But he's kind of fresh in the game. He's not hidden. He's right out there in plain sight.
All day, every day, right. On X. So,
and tweeted or whatever all weekend long.
I don't know.
The one weekend, I'm like, does dude chill a little bit? Like,
I don't know how he runs the businesses and does the tweeting. I don't know.
So there's big rumor out right now that he is going to buy the spinoffs from Comcast, the NBC network that's being spun off from NBC, the MSNBC, and all the other alphabets, which would mean, by the way, Rob Walgate, he'd own the Golf Channel.
Yeah, and I know they're just revamping and redoing that as far as what's happening to try and get that on a different page as well. And if you think about it, they were talking about MSNBC. I believe someone said the value would be $4 to $5 billion. Is that right? For MSNBC? So
really,
I thought that's what I read, and someone was like, "Well, that's
maybe all of them combined." I don't know, Rob, but boy, you talk about a fire sale. It's coming.
Well, yeah, what did he pay for Twitter? 44.
I think he
paid 44 for Twitter. He's now operating Twitter on 80% of the workforce that once was there. I'm not for people losing their jobs. I'm not like advocating for that. But in business, you look to be efficient. I'm glad he's taking that mindset into government with taxpayer dollars, because the people that are struggling buying groceries, and that's one of the reasons the election went the way it did, was because of what's happened with inflation. Those people want to see cuts made.
Well, let me get us out of this in this direction. Elon Musk is right. In the American tradition of media, the people have always been the fourth estate. Freedom of the press has always been a privately owned press, and in many cases, a nonprofit mission-oriented press, even to the point of one person talking to another person. That's simply on the public square. The American media has always been we the people. Now, some people decided to figure out how to do it for a living. Other people decided to do it for a life. But it's always been us. And I think it's very interesting that if Elon Musk were to buy a cable news network channel, what that opportunity would afford. I've heard it said that he's buying it so that more people can know what's going on X every day. Okay, I'm there. But here's something I want to commit to everyone that's listening. And I hope that everyone will post this invitation on X. Maybe Mr. Musk will see it. He's going to need some place to go to tell what he and Vivek Ramaswamy are discovering in this government. And he can always come here. We will always be willing to listen to the truth because we've been there. We've been behind the scenes, on the ground, under the tunnels for 45 years, and we know it's there. Because in many instances, we've seen it with our own eyes at the state and the federal level. What they're doing is a necessary work. We pray God that they don't fail, that they don't give up, that they get out alive, and that we get an open portal into the truth. And if they need a place to bring it out, and people who are willing to listen, they can always come right here to the public square, because they're going to need channels. Because what they're going to find out real quick is that the biggest conspiracy is the conspiracy inside the media. And the media in the United States is not going to want this story to get out.
The conversations are just getting started. To get connected, check out 1850mainstreet.com. We don't data mine anyone or sell your information. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single conversation. We'll see you next time here at 1850 Main Street.